Last weekend was sequel Saturday. This weekend is definitely not going to be the case for the NAIA playoffs, as we are looking at four matchups that these teams have met each other a grand total of four times combined in the past. One of these matchups is a first time ever meeting. So we're going to break this down, talk a few things about this tonight. The NAIA Football Championship Series has made it to the quarterfinals here in 2023, and I'm thankful that you are watching tonight. Good evening. I'm Joey McWilliams here on Midwest Sportsnet, and please, as always, let us know from where you are watching. Thanks for being a part of the broadcast tonight. If you're watching the replay, thank you for watching that as well. We enjoy talking about small college sports and more throughout the Midwest and beyond. So let's go ahead and get right into this. And let's start with the first game on the docket. That includes the number one team in the country, the Northwestern Red Raiders, taking on St. Xavier Cougars, a team that may have surprised a few people last week. I actually did not pick them. I picked Marion last week in that, but the Cougars came away with a big-time victory, 31-21 over Marion last week. Northwestern, playing in its first game in this championship series, shut out Dordt, but didn't score that many points themselves. A 7-0 score. And you look back at what Dordt did too. Dordt held each of its opponents to just 7 points this season, one win, one loss. Hey, Tony, thanks for watching tonight. Go Wildcats. We're going to talk a little bit about your Wildcats tonight. I know there's more than one set of Wildcats to talk about tonight. We'll get to yours here in just a moment. St. Xavier, 8-3. Northwestern, 12-0 on the year, defending national champions. Second meeting between these two schools, and this is one of two matchups where the first meeting took place in 2019 and in the playoffs, no less. Northwestern won 25-20 over St. Xavier in the 2019 first round. Now, the Cougars come in with a solid defense. Both of these teams coming in with strong defensive performances. And what St. Xavier did last week with 15 tackles for loss, 10 sacks in that big-time defensive performance over Marion, got it done. Stuart Ross, though, leading the offense, 214 passing yards per game, a 67.4 completion percentage. When we talk about the quarterbacks tonight, we are going to talk about that touchdown to interception ratio. And I think that's pretty solid, a pretty solid statistic to look at with these quarterbacks tonight. Milton, thanks for watching from Lake Placid, Florida. You are also wanting the Wildcats to win, but your Wildcats, I think, are going to be wearing a little bit different color than what Tony's Wildcats are wearing on Saturday. Ross, 25 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the season, 6.25 to 1. That's a pretty solid ratio right there. Touchdown to interception, 6.25 to 1. And he's found a pretty strong target in Justin Pringle, 61 catches, nearly 1,000 yards. He has 920 receiving yards. He has 12 receiving touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Oh, and he's pretty solid on special teams as well. A 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown this year. So Pringle has recorded 15 touchdowns on the season for the Cougars. But for Northwestern, again, undefeated, and Jalen Gramstad really has turned his game absolutely around in 2023 as opposed to, 2022. I don't want to say it was bad. It absolutely was not bad. And I would probably get some kickback on this one, but I think as the season went on, because of Dalenchek's injury at the end of the year, didn't finish the season as strong. Of course, the numbers were there for Dalenchek, and I don't want to take away anything at all from Morningside's Joe Dalenchek, who was the NAIA Player of the Year. I think a case could have been made for Jalen Gramstad last year. I really do. I think a big-time case could have been made, but that doesn't take anything away from what Dalenchek did. I just wanted to say his game is different this year. Last year, 20-plus rushing touchdowns, 20-plus passing touchdowns. He is leading the way with his arm this year, 28 passing touchdowns, a 69.2 completion percentage, 248 yards per game passing, just 7 interceptions, a ratio of 4-to-1 touchdowns to interception. That's still pretty strong. Maybe Ross is obviously a little bit better there. And Connor McQuillan, 90.8 rushing yards per game, not quite the century mark, enough, and he has 17 touchdowns as well. Now, you talk about these two defenses. I think the numbers may be there over the course of the season, a little bit stronger for Northwestern, giving up just 14.6 points per game and 2 shutouts along the way, including a shutout here in the playoffs. That's last week against Dordt, that 7-0 game. Honestly, the defense did its job to where the offense just had to score a touchdown. So pretty solid there. Hey, Dave. Dave is he switched gears. Dave cheering for Indiana Wesleyan the rest of the way. Of course, those Mustangs fell to Indiana Wesleyan at the not quite at the buzzer, pretty close to at the buzzer. And thanks, Milton. Glad it's sounding great tonight. I appreciate that. My pick, our pick here at Midwest Sportsnet, you have 12-0 Northwestern, defending national champions, 20-plus wins in a row over St. Xavier, who got rid of, I think getting rid of demons, I think that's a weird statement, but got the monkey off its back, getting the win over Marion. I don't know that St. Xavier can do it 2 weeks in a row. I think it's going to be a close contest. And Northwestern is going to have to put more points on the board than 7. 7 points is not going to get it done this week against St. Xavier. However, we're putting our stock with Northwestern and going ahead and ride that train for a little while longer. We have Northwestern over St. Xavier in a close game, and I don't think it's going to be that defensive stoppage of points. Let's just put it that way. I would put an over-under at least 30 in this game and maybe 35. And I don't want to go too high, but I also don't want to go too low on that. Vegas doesn't have any odds. We wish they did. That'd be a lot of fun. In the meantime, we're picking Northwestern in that one. So shout out to the Red Raiders. We'll see how this all turns out. Obviously, they play the game on the field and not on paper. Anyway, College of Idaho, 9-2. Grandview, 11-0. Midway through the season, we started giving Grandview a little bit more credit. Now, the Vikings deserve credit from the start of the season. Make no question about that. I just don't think that I was giving Grandview enough credit in what it was doing. So let's talk about this matchup here. Second meeting between these two schools. Also, this was a matchup that took place the first time around in the 2019 playoffs. Grandview defeated College of Idaho 14-6 in the quarterfinals of the 2019 playoffs, and that's where these two teams are going to meet again. This came after College of Idaho's first win in an NAIA playoff championship series 4 years ago. College of Idaho picked up a big-time win over Montana Western last week, 49-42. Grandview comes away with a victory last week as well. And so, hey, Jake, thanks for watching from East Wichita. Appreciate you letting us know where you are. I was thinking that's where it might have been. Let's talk about the visitors then. And we always try to take care of the visitors first. Andy Peters is putting together and has put together a very strong season. 266.6 passing yards per game. Very solid on his part. That's not all he does. He's nearly a 1,000-yard rusher as well. But let's stay with the passing game for just a moment. 56.4% completion, 29 passing touchdowns to just 7 interceptions, 4.1 to 1 ratio right there. Again, that 4 to 1, 4.1 to 1, pretty solid number there. Peters with 827 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns. Peters is responsible directly, total offense-wise, for 34 touchdowns this year. Some pretty good numbers. And he's found John Schofield a number of times along the way. And don't forget about what College of Idaho can do once the Yotes get into the red zone. It's very, very strong. They look to Schofield often, early and often there. Schofield has 51 net rushing yards this year. 51 net rushing yards this year. And I think if I can pull this up, let me see if I still have that number right here. Schofield on the season, 25 carries. 25 carries for 51 net rushing yards. And he's also had 13 rushing touchdowns. When more than half of your carries over the course of a season result in a touchdown, you're doing things well. But obviously, it's a short yardage package. They get the ball in Schofield's hands. He knows what to do with it once he gets it and puts it in the end zone. He's also a great receiver. 41 catches, 673 receiving yards, and 11 receiving touchdowns as well. That's 24 touchdowns. Between Peters and Schofield, this is an offense that's very, very strong. putting up 41.2 points per game. That's 8th in the NAIA. I'm going to mention one person for Grandview on offense, Jackson Waring. And look at these numbers, 238.6 yards per game, 68% completion percentage there, 35 passing touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. And check out this ratio. The math is there. Maybe you've already done it. 35-5, a 7-1 touchdown to interception ratio on the season. That is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Those numbers alone say a lot for an offense, by the way, that is putting up 42.9 points per game and 5th in the NAI. Now, I've been hearing about College of Idaho's offense, and it's nothing to be sneezed at there at all. But Grandview's offense is that good and a little bit more, at least points production-wise, what the Vikings have been able to do. But they do it with a defense that is unquestionably, and I believe objectively, maybe I should say it the other way around, objectively, and I believe unquestionably, the top defense in the NAI this season. 5.1 points per game they've given up. Over the last 4 games, 0 points, 6 points, 0 points, 3 points. Gave up double digits only twice on the year, 13 points to Missouri Baptist when the game was well in hand, and 13 points to, at that point, still a little bit depleted Graceland team, although Cade Ross can throw the ball no matter who he's throwing it to. 13 points there. Also, late in the game, well decided at that point in time. So 9 games of single-digit outputs, and of those 9 games, 4 shutouts. This is what the defense has done, and this is really pretty cool too. They're giving up 56 points total for the year and 56.1 rushing yards per game. That number 56. But wait, there's more. They average 57.3 tackles per game. Now, there are a couple things about that number, and let's stop for just a moment and look at that. Only 57 tackles per game. That means they're taking care of business when the defense gets out there. They're not giving up these long, sustained drives. If you're shutting people out and you're getting those points on the board and you're giving up, and you're doing it and only doing 57 tackles a game, that means either the other team's running all over you and scoring and you can't tackle them, or they're not getting that many offensive plays to put together. And what they're doing is keeping the offense off the field by getting them off the field quickly. The other thing about that 57.3 tackles per game, they're giving up, or they're averaging more tackles per game at 57.3 than they're giving up rushing yards per game at 56.1. An incredible number. So we look at this playoff matchup. College of Idaho 9-2, solid offense. Grandview 11-0, solid offense, better defense. We're taking Grandview. So Midwest Sportsnet, our pick is Grandview in this one, and we believe that the Vikings may extend it just a little bit, come out and be able to play strong. So we're gonna put it probably a double-digit win there. That's for Grandview. All right. Anyone have any picks on this? Let me know what you think. And we're getting now to games where some folks have already made their decision known as who they are going to pick in that game. So let's bring the next graphic up here. By the way, I'm enjoying the night. Hope you're enjoying the night as well tonight. Back to our regular 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central start time here on a Thursday night. And Tony coming to us from Indialantic, Florida. Man, 2 from Florida tonight. That's really pretty cool. Hope you're enjoying the weather because it's a little bit cool here in southeastern Oklahoma, and it's been rainy for the last 2 days. And I'm hoping that the rain subsides a little bit in this part of the country. I'll tell you why a little bit later on. Programming note, at least on my end there. How about Bethel and Kaiser? So I think I have Tony's attention. And by the way, what a cool spot. Indialantic, Florida. That is a great spot on the map. I would like to visit that place someday. I really, really would. My daughter has in-laws in Tampa. That's almost directly across the state from where you are right now over in Tampa? I think that is. Is that pretty close to the same area? Maybe just, anyway, we visited them some. Haven't been back in a little while, so we'll have to go back and check that out. Bethel at Kaiser. This is the only matchup in which these two teams have faced each other more than one time in their program's history. 1-1 all time, as Kaiser won last year 27-17. That was in the first round of the playoffs, and that was that game that the Wildcats came up on the short end after going 11-0 in the regular season, went up against a Kaiser team that wound up making it to the national championship game and falling ultimately to Northwestern. When Bethel won, you have to go back a few years, and this was actually Kaiser's first season as a football team, their first active season. Bethel won that one big time, 52-7. It was the third football game that Kaiser had played as a program. And check this out. Bethel was Kaiser's first ever loss. The Seahawks came out and won in their first two games as a program. Coach Sosha, say that a few times fast. And Bethel actually provided Kaiser with its first ever loss. So the two teams are 1-1. Let's talk about the Wildcats here as they come in a very strong defense. Again, Grandview right up there at the top. Hey, born in Tampa. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, so you're right up there. I know exactly where you are on the map. That's really pretty cool. Bethel with Joaquin Collazo III, 272 passing yards per game, 7th in the NAIA. By the way, his total number right now, and I know these can be a little bit skewed because not everyone gets the extra games with the postseason, but Collazo does. 3,264 passing yards so far this year. That's an aggregate number. That's second in the NAIA. He is behind only Adrian Parsons from Mid-American Nazarene. He has 3,310. So that puts him 46 total yards in passing behind Parsons. You have to think he's going to pick up at least 47 passing yards in this game. But again, now think Parsons did it in 11 games. Collazo now will be playing in his 12th game this season. So Bethel had one game less during the regular season. Not bad numbers at all. Check this out. 70.5% passing. That is an incredible completion percentage, and 35 passing touchdowns this year, 8 interceptions, a ratio of 4.4 to 1. Collazo's numbers are big time. Martise Smith, nearly 800 yards rushing. He has 797 on the year, 7 rushing touchdowns. Bethel's offense is strong. The defense is solid as well, giving up only 12.7 points per game. That's second only to Grandview, and Grandview's numbers are just ridiculous. But second in the NAIA, 5 defensive touchdowns, and the offense is putting up 44.3 points per game, 4th in the NAIA for Coach Mike Jasper. For Kaiser, Bryce Beasley, who saw some time near the end of the year for the Seahawks, has really done a strong job for Kaiser this year. 166.8 passing yards per game, but his completion percentage is 67.3. Now, numbers from the ratio perspective, 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a 3.2 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio. The Seahawks have been able to move the ball on the ground, though, as well, led by Jaden Meisinger, one of our picks at the start of the year as one of the top 5 running backs returning to the NAIA for 2023. 106.4 rushing yards per game. That's 9th in the NAIA. 18 rushing touchdowns per game. That's 5th in the NAIA. We know that Kaiser can put some points on the board as well. The matchup at this point, and there's one other factor here, and I have heard this on, I know 2 programs already that talk about the NAIA, and I think it bears mentioning in that Bethel is making this trip by bus. They're not flying in to Kaiser for this trip, and it's a bus trip that could take a little while. Obviously, been on the road already, and would that be a factor in this game? Kaiser made the trip to Bethel last year to take on the Wildcats and won on the road. Bethel making the trip now, returning the favor to Kaiser. Would they be able to get past this? If they don't fly in, how's that bus trip, or more than one bus, how's the bus trip going to be into Kaiser? Is it going to have an effect on the Wildcats? Are they going to come in tired? Are they going to come in unprepared? What is the matter? Coach Jasper has made this decision, and if that's the one he makes, that's the one he makes. And so we're picking Bethel. We're going to go for the first time since the first round because we picked no road teams in the second round. Here in the quarterfinals, this is our first road pick, and we're going with Bethel in this one. We think that Bethel has it there. I know I'm picking against the defending national runners up in this and a very, very tough Kaiser team at home, a team that's lost only one time to an NAIA program over the course of the last 2 years, that's played tough against Division II programs, that's played tough against Division I programs. Kaiser, a very, very strong team. We're picking the Wildcats in this one. We think it's going to be good defensively. And I would be surprised also, and I don't think I make these picks very often. I'll go ahead and say this one. I would be surprised if there's not a defensive touchdown from one team or the other. If Kaiser is able to take care of business and at the very least with field position, put the Wildcats in a difficult position, maybe take advantage of something there for the Wildcats in their on defense for the Seahawks, I wouldn't be surprised to see a defensive touchdown there, or, and I could go ahead and say it's just a non-offensive touchdown because Bethel has a strong special teams as well. Not just the defense with those 5 defensive touchdowns, a strong special teams as well. Would not be surprised at all to see a non-offensive touchdown. So that's our pick on that. And Tony says, okay, well, just let me post that one up there. Tony says, hey, got a big fan base coming in from Melbourne. All right. Well, that's pretty cool. Going to see number 13. So there you are right there. And I actually, let me look. Here's by the way, if you noticed, Presto's gotten a little bit better following Presto Sports. I've been keeping up with the volleyball, and it's been a little bit of a challenge for those websites that are Presto websites, and still going to have to make some changes. It's gotten better over the last 2 or 3 years, but I think there's still some changes that need to be made right there. We're picking Bethel, just so you know. All right. Final one of the night. Thanks to everybody for watching tonight. Not a full hour program tonight. We'll get things taken care of and get it done. 30, 35 minutes, something like that. Here we go. Indiana Wesleyan on the road at Georgetown. Not a particularly long trip. And this one is the first of the 4 meetings in which it's the first ever meeting, period. For Indiana Wesleyan, they saw that last week against Morningside. Well, it's the first ever meeting for this one. Coach Andrew Rohde is leading his team, trying to take the Wildcats back to the semifinals. Now, Coach Rohde in his first season obviously wasn't a part of that trip to the semifinals last year, trying to lead the team back. There's experience in this. There's precedent in this. 3rd season for Indiana Wesleyan to make the NAIA playoffs, and it's the 3rd year in a row. There was an issue with eligibility and didn't get to play in that first year. 2nd year, they make it to the semifinals. What do you do from here? Can you make it to the semis again and maybe beyond? Well, the Wildcats are led by Xander Stokes, 249 passing yards per game, 60.8% completion percentage, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a ratio of 3.1 to 1. Not as strong maybe as a couple others that we've seen so far. Tay Williams on the ground, though. And by the way, Stokes can move the ball on the ground too. Tay Williams, 1,164 rushing yards. He needs just 25, and you have to think he's going to get at least 25. He needs just 25 to break the program record. He's averaging 105.8 per game and has 12 rushing touchdowns. Another player averaging the century mark, Levi Tidwell, who's been able to make some noise for the Wildcats as a receiver, 100.1 receiving yards per game. Tidwell with 9 receiving touchdowns of those 25 that Stokes has thrown. And the defense for Indiana Wesleyan giving up 17.3 points per game, a little bit more. That's 15th in the NAI, led by Luke Bays, who has a program record now, 108 tackles for the season. For Georgetown, we've talked about Georgetown's defense a lot more this year than we've talked about their offense. For Coach Chris Oliver, obviously, he, along with Coach Rohde, both have championship experience from the coach's perspective. Coach Rohde, the offensive coordinator for Morningside, through one of its championships a couple of years ago. Coach Oliver leading the way for Lindsey Wilson a couple of years back as well when the Blue Raiders won the national championship. These two coaches know how to get it done. Gehrig Slunacher, 150.9 passing yards per game, 51 or 58.1 completion percentage there, 13 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, a 1.6 to 1 ratio there. And I believe that it is the smallest ratio of all the quarterbacks that are still in the playoffs in this NAIA championship series. However, the Tigers can move the ball on the ground. Darius Neal, 121.2 rushing yards per game, third in the NAIA, 20 rushing touchdowns, third in the NAIA. The defense is giving up 12.8 points per game, third in the NAIA, and has 4 defensive touchdowns as well. It's led by Chad Holloran, who was had individual accolades in the Mid-South Conference this year with his performance. 82 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss. He's had an interception and forced a fumble as well. The Tigers on defense are very, very strong. They're playing at home. But we've talked about this Indiana Wesleyan defense quite a bit over the course of the year as well. And last week we saw the bend but don't break one more time, as at the very end of the game, as Morningside was driving, setting up for what had the potential to be a game-tying field goal. Field goal was blocked. We've talked about a defense numerous times that has stopped teams when they needed to at the end. 3 times over the course of the year, stopping 2-point conversions that would have either tied or won the game for the opponents. These are 2 very strong defenses. Again, we feel like Indiana Wesleyan has a little bit more in the tank offensively, and it's not that far of a road trip. Might even get some fans to make the trip down for this one as well. We're picking Indiana Wesleyan. So we have back-to-back road teams that we are picking over the course of the year now, or over the course of this quarterfinal. So we have 2 teams we're picking at home in the top 2 teams in the country, both undefeated. Northwestern at home, Grandview at home. We're going to take Bethel on the road, and we're going to take Indiana Wesleyan on the road. And I don't know what that means for anybody else, but I know there were some folks here who wanted Wildcats to win tonight. We're going to pick Wildcats to win twice on Saturday. So there are picks for the weekend. I hope they match up with some of yours. I don't know. Obviously, they don't play the game on paper. They play the game on the field. But wherever you are, I'm hoping for good weather. I know that we are just a few hours where I am, 3.5 hours now from the month of December, where some of you all are there in Florida. I know just 2.5 hours from the month of December. And I mentioned it was a little bit cooler tonight here in Southeast Oklahoma. And it is cooler. It's been a cooler week, but it's been a lot of rain this week. I think the rain's moving out. I don't know if it's heading your direction if you're going to be watching some of these games in the Southeast. But I am going to be on Saturday, and I'll be leaving tomorrow, heading to Texarkana, Arkansas, to be on the call for the Live United Bowl. And I'm thrilled about this. There was a gap in 2020 where they didn't have a Live United Bowl. This is the 10th anniversary and the 10th time that I get to be on the broadcast as color, and this year doing play-by-play again for, I think, the 3rd time. I'm thrilled about the opportunity I get to do that. And so I'm hoping for good weather and hoping it might be in the 60s maybe and dry. And I've seen so many games there in Texarkana where it has been absolutely brutal, inclement weather on that December Saturday when they played the game. So I'm hoping for a fun game in Texarkana. Missouri Western and Southern Arkansas, 2 Division II programs from the MIAA and the Great American Conference, respectively. So it should be a lot of fun. We'll also do a brief program from Texarkana out there on the field at Arkansas High, and that'll be Saturday morning. So we'll talk a little bit more then, maybe get a chance to talk to one of the coaches. If you haven't heard or haven't seen, we have interviews with both of the coaches in the Live United Bowl here on Midwest Sportsnet. Had a chance to talk with Coach Fenwick from Missouri Western and with Coach Smiley from Southern Arkansas. Those 2 interviews are on the channel. So there we are. There is our NAIA quarterfinal preview and breakdown. Now, I encourage you come back because Sunday night, back at our usual Sunday night time, we're going to talk about the top 5 performances from these quarterfinals and just 4 games. So we don't have to look too far from that. I am going to have to listen to some of the replays on Saturday and get to hear it that way and get to. I don't know if there's any video that I get to watch on some of these. The paywalls are becoming challenging, but I'll be on the call there, so I'm going to get to listen after the fact and check things out, and we'll be following along. I'll be following along during the Live United Bowl as well. So it should be a fun Saturday all the way around. Lots of playoff action. So I hope your team wins, whoever your team happens to be and whoever you happen to cheer for. And we'll talk about it more on Sunday night. And then this coming Thursday, 1 week from today, we'll talk a little more volleyball along the way, but this coming Thursday, 1 week from today, when we preview the semis, we'll also look back at some of the things in 2023 over the course of the regular season and some high points, maybe some low points, and how did your team do along the way? So I've used that phrase way too many times tonight. Sorry. I'm not going to say along the way anymore tonight. How did your team do? Want to hear from you on Thursday night. So be sure to be in the comments on Thursday night. I want to hear how your team did. Dave, thanks for checking in tonight. Milton, thanks for checking in tonight. Jake, thanks for checking in tonight. I know you had wrestling stuff the last time I was on the air, so I'm glad to get to see you. Tony, thank you for checking in tonight as well. And anyone else, if you didn't make it into the comments, thank you for watching. If you are watching this live, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. It is an enjoyable time on Thursday nights to get to visit with you all and just have some fun. So I thank you very much for commenting. Thank you, Jake. And if you are watching this on the replay and you're still watching it now, you're an absolute trooper. Thank you for being a part of the broadcast. May see you on Saturday. May see you on Sunday night. Wherever you are, stay safe. God bless you all. Have a great night. Northwestern, Grandview, Indiana Wesleyan, Bethel. That's our picks. See what happens. Have a great night. God bless you all. Talk to you later.